Greetings and welcome to In Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Many may say that the quickest way to change a society lies in how we influence children. We are going in depth on the work of the Public Education Unit of the Environmental Management Authority, specifically for the nation's children. We do so with Auntie Alisa, Alisa Gomez, Environmental Education Officer at the EMA. Hello, Auntie Alisa, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Great. I want to start off, though, talking about the importance of reaching young citizens. I think sometimes we just look at and say, okay, well, we need to address policymakers, we need to talk to people in authority. What's the importance of reaching children with the information from the EMA?
It's very, very important, as important, if not more important, because we can affect adults, yes, but children is where the change really happens. Young people, we know that their brains are like sponges, they're learning all the time, and they are excited to learn new information and not only get the information, but put it into practice. Because we find with older people that, yes, they may be aware, but actually putting that awareness into action is where there is sometimes a stumbling block. So if it is we get our children aware of environmental issues, they are more likely to put things in place in terms of actually doing it and getting their parents involved and changing entire households. So getting children involved and excited about learning and new things is very, very important.
And we want to get children excited and involved in new things, so we're talking about the new environmental series. What is that about?
It's Storytime with Auntie Alisa. It is a 4-part video series. We have 4 videos where each time Auntie Alisa reads a story, a different story, on a different environmental topic. So the first one that came out was Mystic Mora versus Bushfire. That is on the theme of forest fires, but it is also a fun story. So yes, we get into the information and the environmental awareness and so on, but we also telling stories. So reaching children just to get them involved and excited. And story time is always fun with young people, young children, and so on. So Auntie Alisa reads to them in each episode. Mystic Mora versus Bushfire is a comic book reading. It's from a comic book that was developed by the EMA. And this comic book is with a superhero, Mystic Mora. And each time, because there are 3 different stories in the comic book, in this one, he tackles forest fires, people who set fires, and at the end of the story is an epic battle, I call it, an epic battle between Mystic Mora and Bushfire. So yes, we get in the information, but then there's also that fight that young people love. And it's very much a comic book where you see the splash and the bam and stuff like that. So yeah, we have all of those in there as well in that reading. And so that's the first story. And the second story that is read is Mystic Mora Saves the Sea Turtle. This is where Mystic Mora goes on a beach, and some people are entering the beach illegally because sea turtle beaches where sea turtles come up to nest you are not allowed to enter during the turtle nesting season. So some people have entered the beach illegally and they're going on the beach, and Mystic Mora comes and stops them. And again, it's this sort of thing where our superhero comes in and he swoops them off their feet and reminds them that they're not supposed to be doing this. So again, another exciting story. Those 2 stories are for an older audience because again, it is a comic book. And then we have 2 stories that target younger ones. One is Corey's Big Scare, and that one is about a coral that lives in Bucco Reef, and it encounters a snorkeler who almost tries to take him off of the coral reef. So Corey has a little mishap there, but one of his friends manages to save him. And then the 4th story is Joshy's Big Adventure, and that introduces children to manatees, the Nariva swamp, And it's a short, sweet story about a boy who visits the river swamp and meets the manatee. So again, 4 stories that we've done so far, where Auntie Alisa reads and takes children on a journey through environmental information in a very fun way.
And in terms of that short and sweet story, you're looking at the 4 of them, Auntie Alisa, you know that's your name for this conversation, right? But what I like the fact that you were able to talk about different groupings, different target areas. What is the work? Give us some details about the work of saying, okay, well, this story is for this group, and these topics are for this group, or this is how we're going to share this information. Because you also made the point, yes, we're giving you the information, but we're also doing it for this grouping. So what are some of those considerations and the work going into that process?
Well, it's the complexity of the story, certainly. So the language that's used, the topic, yes, but also the language, and I guess the type of drawings and that sort of thing. So the comic book, again, for an older, it was originally intended for teenagers and that sort of thing. Our Storytime series is targeted for primary school. So we're looking at standards 4, standard 5. But again, anybody who's interested can look along and read along and so on. But again, it comes down to the complexity of the story. So in Mystic Mora versus Bushfire, we have a very there's a dialogue between Mystic Mora and this slash and burn farmer, where they discuss a lot of the issues surrounding why the farmer would light fires in the first place, the effects of forest degradation and destruction. So again, those sorts of terminology and that sort of thing that come into play there. So those are the considerations in terms of saying that this one is for an older audience. And it's also a much longer story, Joshy's Big Adventure, which we're looking at for even preschool, standard 1, and so on. It's a very short story. The graphics, again, the images in the story target a younger age group. There's a little boy who's the protagonist. And even Corey's Big Scare, the one about the coral reef, again, a very short, simple story. And we have this coral who is the main headliner in the story. And then there's a snorkeler who comes in. So not much dialogue or anything going on in those stories for the younger ones. Whereas in the Mystic Mora comic book, we have a lot of interplay among the characters and discussion of the issues, the environmental issues, and so on. So that would have definitely been a consideration in terms of the age group. But what we have found is that people who view it, they watch them all. So it's not to say, well, this one is not for my age group, so I'm not going to watch it. But you hear even the younger ones watching the older ones and so on. And that is the intention as well.
And you talk about look along, read along, you're talking about people who view it. When we come back from this short break, we are going to find out, one, how people can engage with it, and then we get into some other parts of the conversation. Stay with us. We return with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with environmental education officer Alisa Gomez about fabulous work being done by the Environmental Management Authority. And just before we took the break, we said we were going to ask, how do we look at these things, Auntie Alisa?
Oh, they're available on YouTube. That is the most easily accessible way. The Environmental Management Authority has a YouTube channel, so you can check us out. We have a lot of content on the channel, but we also have a playlist. So you can go directly to playlists on YouTube, and there you'll see the 4 videos available together there. They are also on the EMA's website, on the public education section. We have some resources for children, and they are available in there as well.
And how does a campaign like this, trying to build public awareness, tie into national development strategy? Because it's interesting. Connect some dots for us. Vision 2030. How does this tie in to that grand scheme of things?
Well, public education and awareness, as we mentioned, very, very important. Reaching the children, passing on the information, getting people to do not just get the information, but apply the information and make changes in their life that are required for us to revert environmental degradation. So if it is we work on our public education, getting people aware, then we are able to implement change from the young people moving up, from the older people building their awareness and so on. So even with the National Environmental Policy, one of the priority areas speaks to fostering environmental awareness among the nation at large. So again, recognizing the importance of education as a key element in terms of building a nation, building environmental awareness and sustainability in the long term.
And looking at that also, you also spoke about the National Environmental Policy, but I want to talk about representation as well, please, Auntie Alisa, in terms of saying this is not some airy-fairy story from somewhere outside. I say, okay, well, this is something that is produced close to home in a way that it may be easier to identify. Is that one of the things that you were trying to work towards when you said, okay, well, this is what we're doing, this is the shape, this is the look, this is the feel of this campaign?
Yes, definitely. The EMA is very much about building local content. There's a lot of environmental information that people can access globally, internationally at the touch of a button. But to make it relatable, because yes, children, they imbibe information all the time from just TV, internet, YouTube, and so on. But to make it relatable for them to want to make changes in their life or recognizing that it applies to them, we localize the information. So again, these 4 stories are not set somewhere that they don't know. There's no winter, there's no pine trees or anything like that. It would be the Matura National Park in Trinidad. It would be the Boko Reef, which is in Tobago. It would be the Nariva Swamp, which is again local. So Mystic Mora and the farmer, when they interact and so on, is that local language that comes into there as well. So recognizing that we have to give local content to make it relatable to the public.
And I really appreciate that explanation. And looking at the fact that there's so many things that are going on in terms of like the way that this ties into the National Environmental Policy, looking how it ties into Vision 2030. These are things that have timelines. Are there indicators that you are looking towards to say, okay, well, these are some of the ways that this program is performing that we're looking out for? So in terms of getting a kind of outlook for the initiative, what are some of those things that you're looking at and hoping to see?
Well, we're looking at reach. So YouTube in terms of likes and views and that sort of thing. That's the way we're really able to monitor in terms of whether people are tuning in, getting the information. So marketing it, advertising it, and then looking to see how things change once that information goes out into the public. So it was launched in November last year, and we have had quite a lot of views since then. So it's been about making it available and tracking the information and seeing how it increases with each push that we give to the tool. And we also try not to make it too dated. So again, a lot of our work, we try to make it timeless. So not too many indicators that we know this was produced 10 years ago and now it's no longer applicable sort of thing, but information that can remain in the long term and people can still relate it even as time goes by.
In terms of keeping that current feel, well, making sure that is not dated, like you said, and with the thrust to create local content, who are some of the people involved? Are there local producers, artists, people dealing with the sound? Who are some of those people who put their hand in it for these 4 stories thus far?
Well, we would have employed local talent in the illustration of the Mystic Mora comic book. And this comic book, it was actually produced about, it's been a while. It's been about 10 years since we produced a Mystic Mora comic book. So again, you can see the applicability of the information even as time goes by. It was initially a publication that was produced, but now we are extracting the information and providing it to the public in a different way, and it still remains as relevant. So it would have been illustrated by some local talent, as well as the other stories. The Joshi would have been done by local talent as well. And then we also would have our local videographer who would come on board and provide that element in terms of bringing it to life on screen, so that is no longer just a story to be read, but something that can be viewed as well. So it has been a work that has stood the test of time and is being provided in a different way at this time.
Looking at the fact that you say that, okay, so there's Joshi, there's Corey, there's Mystic Mora. What's next? Because I'm sure in terms of building the appetite, building the appreciation for things that, one, are local, are two, informative, and three, people can just kind of immerse themselves into. What do you all have a potential storyboard and say, okay, well, we dealt with coral, we dealt with slash and burn, and these are some of the topics that we want to address next. What are some of those topics that you want to get out to this target group next?
We are in some preliminary work with the iCare project, which is the EMA's collection for recycling project, to do a couple of stories that would be related to waste generation, waste management, and recycling in Trinidad and Tobago. So that is where we are intending to go next in terms of management of waste, and the 3 R's, all very topical at this time.
Now, you're saying that, Auntie Alisa, and you talk about those 3 R's and waste management, and you make him, and that kind of led me to my next question. Who are some of those people that you want to partner with? Because there are people doing the work. I'm thinking of Sile Enterprises that has also published some work, and they are doing the work like this. Is there anybody that you want to work with? If someone says, okay, well, I have this idea, I've already gone this far, how can we help each other? How do they reach out to you to get that done?
They can always contact us by email. So there is education@ema.co.tt, where anybody with a request and idea can contact us, and then we can see how collaboration and partnership may be possible. We are doing quite a bit of partnership right now in the public education unit, because we've been working on quite a few video projects over the past year. For example, we have collaborated with NEHURST, the Ministry of Education, and the Institute of Marine Affairs for another video that we're doing on water quality testing for 6th form students, for example. So that is where we are working right now with other government bodies in terms of this tool that can be used for secondary schools. And we are also interested in other partnerships. So again, feel free to reach out and we can see what is possible.
Thank you very much, Auntie Alisa. Alisa Gomez, Environmental Education Officer at the EMA, talking about story time with Auntie Alisa and the need for such. And this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant, on behalf of our entire news team. Thank you so much for joining us.